Hello, welcome back to Energy Boom 101. It is Wednesday, we know that for sure. It's 2013, we know that for sure. In the background, you can hear the lingering tones of the bells of Boom U. We've got a cameraman today that comes with us all the way from the cellar. Benji in the house running the camera. This, I think, is Dispatch 17, I'm pretty sure. We're going to do a nice refresher over the global energy rainbow. We're going to talk about what's going on in the United States. We'll definitely talk about what's going on in Oklahoma. Devon Energy reported earnings today and some production numbers. Sandridge reported yesterday. We'll talk about that. We may even have a little oil patch jazz on tap for you. A new segment. We think it's going to work. We're also going to want to announce that we want to try out something called the Boom and Bloom, which may be Dispatch 18, which may be straight from Benji's car, which is nothing more than driving around downtown Norman and showing you all the businesses that are opening. And so we think there's still a lot going on here in this crazy energy boom. And we always like to tell you that we're live from the studios, the Transparent Barrel. Benji's getting a good shot. This is the patented trademark shot that we use every time. You got the crucible of consciousness behind us, this glorious unfurling of the human condition that grapples and roils in the maelstrom of magnificence to understand. Right now, they're currently engaged in a glorious autumn Wednesday. It's a crisp, glorious time to be alive here at Boom U, in the heart of Norman, Oklahoma, which of course is in the heart of Oklahoma, which is in the heart of the oil patch. You get the point. I want to say a few things before we go any further because we have some special guests in the house. The drilling fluid today, as we drill for these glorious wells of knowledge, these gushers that seem to emerge from within, has been brought to us by Ardmore, and that's not Ardmore, Oklahoma. That's just Ardmore Highland Single Malt Scotch Whiskey, peated, non-chill filtered, 46% alcohol volume. I have no idea what any of that means, but I can tell you this much. This is the drilling fluid today. It's a pretty nice little product. Seems to offer a pleasant degree of resistance to the innerness of bean, if that makes any sense. And the fracking services today, we contracted out with Geronimo's Cali Indy. Consistent, tends to liberate the strata of self efficiently. We're going to work some more on that. Speaking of strata of self, I haven't had my time to give the trademark slogan we like to always give here at Energy Boom 101, which is, oh, by the way, welcome to Energy Boom 101. We're connecting crude to consciousness, one gusher at a time. Now, we don't know how we're going to do that, but it's going to start with this little backup shot, because I think we're ready to go in, and we're going to get an overview of the global energy rainbow. Benji right now is working it out with the domino shoes. This thing is grooving. It's flying. I'm going to give him time to get acclimated to the high-tech equipment we're using. We're going to get a nice overview of the United States today. We'll get a nice overview of the global energy rainbow. We may talk to Stewie over there. We'll see. Our content providers, as we've always discussed, the methods of mining we use are primitive at best, newspapers. So you sort of get an idea for how the show works. Basically, I get up here and I bullshit about what's in the Wall Street Journal and what's in the Oklahoma Daily. And then we sort of put a little spin of the absurdity of how Boom U's out there weaving everyone's mind into cotton candy from the State Fair of Oklahoma. But without further ado, let's get a nice overview of the United States. Let's get a nice overview of the global energy rainbow. And then I'll give you some specific updates straight from the source of the newspapers. Quick question, Benji, where are we time-wise?
4 minutes.
4 minutes into it, so we're feeling really good. We like to keep these things anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes. The kids today can get nutty on you. Let's start with a nice overview of the United States energy. Has anything changed since the last dispatch a week ago? Not really, other than Sandridge announced yesterday that they had pretty good production numbers, and I believe they beat analyst estimates. And so that's good news, and that's a little update on what's happening in the USA. Now, Sandridge is a big energy company in Oklahoma City, and they have about 1.8 million acres in the Mississippi Lime, which is this glorious play in Oklahoma. We've talked about it before. It basically is sort of central Oklahoma, northbound, all the way up maybe into Nebraska. It's probably still being sort of de-risked, is what they'd call it, out there in the patch, in areas of Kansas. And this weather pressure, by the way, is going to just push right up through Kansas and just move that oil patch to Colorado. Did anyone catch that little weather thing there? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We almost destroyed Tom Ward's head, by the way, who, by the way, was the old CEO of Sandridge. He now has a new company called Tapstone. We're still waiting to hear updates on them. Nothing yet. When we do, you know where it's going to go. It's going to go into the Symphony of Shale, which is another little segment we have here at the Energy Boom 101, committed to the doings of the Oklahoma oilmen. Now, quick update here, overview, Symphony of Shale, because it's integrated into the United States oil map, is right now has its first act. Act 1 is the Utica, and the guest conductor is Mr. McClendon, and we don't have production numbers yet, but I suspect that he should probably get pretty good production out of his first post-Chesapeake play, which is the Utica LLC he set up underneath the American Energy Partners LP. So we've got Mr. McClendon's first manifestation of business post-Chesapeake, and the first play, I believe he raised about $1.7 billion. We've got it basically documented. You never can tell. $500 million from Energy and Minerals Group, which is run by John Raymond, son of Lee Raymond, former Exxon CEO. Probably plugged in pretty good. $200 million from First Reserve out of Connecticut. Could be a savings and loan for all I know. Who knows? They got debt of about $400 million. And there's some more money they've raised. And I'm sure Mr. McClendon would let us know if we could get him on the phone. I'd love to have Aubrey McClendon and Lois Morissette on the same show, sharing the Buchanan Street balcony for a glorious discussion of crude and consciousness. We could make it happen, maybe. But that's a quick overview of what's happening with Mr. McClendon in the Symphony of Shale, Act 1, the Utica, which is a part of the U.S. energy boom, which is going on. And Tommy Ward, who used to be with Sandridge, will probably have an act pretty soon in the Symphony of Shale, because he's got a company called Tapstone. But we're going to continue just talking about the United States right now. We talked about Sandridge, we talked about the big play in Oklahoma called the Mississippi Line. Let's give you a nice overview of where we are in these plays again, because they're sort of fun to talk about. The Mississippi Line is still being researched considerably, and by the way, Oklahoma State University has a significant research center, I believe, set up to look into the technology to best recover the assets within the Mississippi Line. And OU will probably do something similar. Maybe they would do one on the Woodford Shale, which is the play that's right below the Mississippi Line, which would be interesting. So now we have two big plays in Oklahoma. So let's just continue talking about Oklahoma and look at their plays, and then we'll move on to the rest of the United States. I bet we're at 7 minutes. 8. Feeling good about this. See, we're integrating the experience of existence into the actual show itself. And you don't have to really understand what that means, because I don't understand what it means, but it helps fill. It's the fodder. It's the fodder of life. Oklahoma oil plays, before we move on to the rest of the United States. Mississippi Line, Sandridge, huge position in it. Probably the biggest pure play. Other big players include Osage Exploration. You may want to think about looking into them. Devon Energy. There's a variety of drillers in the Mississippi Line. Below the Mississippi Line in Oklahoma, the Woodford Shale. Devon has already de-risked a certain percentage of that. Osage, I think, is attempting to. You'll have a lot of drillers there. There's two plays. You have the Scoop, which is basically the Woodford Shale in the southern part of the state, and Harold Hamm of Continental, a big company north here 20 minutes, is going to uncork the Scoop, which he basically coined this acronym, South Central Oklahoma Oil Province. I'm pretty sure that's the Woodford Shale coming out of there, just southern Oklahoma. But we'd call that a third play, because it's got a third name, the Scoop. Fourth play, the Granite Wash. I think Apache uncorks pretty good down there. There's even a fifth and a sixth play. Now, they're smaller, but I suspect they perhaps offer compelling economics as well. I don't know. And they're in the panhandle of Oklahoma. And I think the Hugoton, and the other one might be the Houghton. I'm sure I mispronounced them, but I think they both start with an H, which I'm sure has some deep meaning somewhere. So I think you can count on 4 major plays and 2 minor plays in Oklahoma, which arguably could make us the center of the energy boom, which of course is at the center of the global energy rainbow, which I want to shift you down to now, because I know we were going to talk about the United States, but this is a good segue. Global energy rainbow. Let's get another quick overview, because I think within 12 minutes of airtime, we can let you see what's happening, and then the next dispatch, we'll try and dig in a little deeper. We talked about this last week. Let's feel good about what's going on. By the way, the global energy rainbow, not only is it an obvious rainbow that does nothing more than really sort of track everything that goes into influence, which is capitalism and politics and everything else, but it's also a global energy chess match. So these countries are now going to assign chess pieces, because they'll need it. Global energy rainbow. First thing we always like to remember is what's going on with the big horse race for crude oil production, because basically unless something changes, which it could happen, I think the rest of the world is going to drink crude oil for quite a while the United States actually drinks less, but God bless them, produces more, which they'll sell to the rest of the world. Three big horses in this crude oil horse race. You got Saudi Arabia, which the last count we did, we called someone, I can't remember who we were talking to, they were producing 11.7 million barrels a day. Still number one. We know they can knock it out, but the game is on. Number two, Russia produces 10.8 million barrels a day. Vladimir Putin can kill you with his pinky. We don't need to go over that again. We've talked about it before. If you've never heard of it, Benji, and you're demanding that I explain it to you, it's the Putin pinky pull. And all he does is just very gently puts his pinky into your chest, pulls your heart out, shows it to you before you die. It's been done before. It also allows him to produce 10.8 million barrels a day, which has him second place. And third place in the grand crude race in the global energy rainbow is the United States at 10.3 million. In third place, but if you listen to these guys up here in the United States, these big oil men, they'll probably tell you that we should be number one here pretty soon, if not already. Now, not in crude oil production, but maybe in total energy production. So, remember this about the global energy rainbow. You got three big horses sort of leading the charge with crude production, and then you have all these other things going on, like, hey, there's a lot of crude production going on in Brazil. As a matter of fact, the Libra offshore oil field, and you can think of it as an athlete. Hey, where are we time-wise? 12 minutes, okay. This is unbelievable. I'll never do this show again. I've had it with these time constraints. I'll walk off the set. I'll call my agent right now. The Libra offshore oil field just signed a contract. Think of this as an athlete. The Libra offshore oil field, underneath the Brazilian government, just signed a contract to get paid $200 billion over 35 years, and they also got an $8 billion signing bonus, and I shit you not, it's true, an $8 billion signing bonus, plus $200 billion to be paid over 35 years. Who paid him this? Shell, big oil company, Royal Dutch Shell, you've heard of that. Total, big French oil company, France's national oil company that I always like to remind our viewers, though I've never been able to prove this, but I suspect it, still owns the United States' largest manufacturer of solar panels. So that's something interesting to say about a global energy rainbow, that an enormous oil company from France would own the largest manufacturer of solar panels in the United States. And now you see how crazy this global energy rainbow is. Let's get back to Brazil. Shell, Total out of France, CNPC, which is China National Petroleum Corporation, I think, and CNOOC, two Chinese national oil companies, one French national oil company, and Royal Dutch Shell have come together to pay the Brazilian government $200 billion over 35 years and an $8 billion signing bonus to extract crude oil to sell the rest of the world. The game's on, but Brazil probably doesn't pull out enough oil for them to be considered one of the big three heavyweights. We'll try and find more numbers on that as we move on. Another great thing you want to know about the Brazilian contract they signed, the Brazilian government gets 80% of all oil revenue. That's an enormous number. If you're the Brazilian government, you should be very, very happy. Of course, the glorious question is, will that revenue be put to good use in Brazil? I don't know. We'll let someone at OU come discuss that someday. Are we at 15 minutes? 14? Okay. You know what? I've had it. I am done. We'll wrap this up, and we'll do another dispatch from here, and then we'll go out on the road. So I think this is dispatch 17. But we at least got a nice overview, and I think I was able to tie you in to see how the global energy rainbow continues to unfurl. Brazil got a nice little $200 billion game going there. Saudi, Russia, the United States running the horse race for crude oil production. Greenland, remember we're talking about them, they're in play right now. All sorts of fun people are in there doing crazy things. Canadians getting their rubies to some of the Chinese. The Scots are down there exploring for Scotch. The Brits are there looking for iron. They're using Chinese workers for that iron. The Aussies are there getting a rare earth, which is an interesting 21st century compound that China controls 90% of the global production of rare earth. Interesting. And then the Chinese are there for engineering and mining. We're getting close to